According to Wikipedia, 3D films are movies designed to give an illusion of three-dimensional solidity, usually with the help of special glasses worn by viewers. Such films have existed in some forms since 1915, but have been largely relegated to a niche in the motion picture industry due to the costly hardware and process required to produce and display a 3D film, and the lack of a standardized format for all segments of the entertainment business. As time went on, however, they became more part of the mainstream. During the 50s, they were prominently featured in the US cinema, and later experienced a worldwide resurgence in the 1980s and 90s, driven by IMAX high-end theatres and Disney-themed venues. They became increasingly successful throughout the 2000s, peaking with the success of Avatar in December 2009, followed by another decrease in popularity. Some directors have also taken more experimental approaches to 3D filmmaking, most notably celebrated auteur Jean-Luc Godard in his film Goodbye to Language. The history of 3D films goes back a long way to the early part of the 19th century. Their basic components were introduced separately between 1833 and 1839. Joseph Plateau, a Belgian physicist and mathematician born in 1801, was one of the first people to demonstrate the illusion of a moving image, doing so by using the counter-rotating discs with repeating drawn images in small increments of motion on one and regularly spaced slits in the other. In 1832, he called this device he invented the phenakistoscope. It was the first widespread animation device that created a fluid illusion of motion. It was a stroboscopic disc. Later, Charles Wheatstone developed the stereoscope, a device for viewing a stereoscopic pair of separate images, depicting left eye and right eye views of the same scene as a single three-dimensional image, finally making it public in June 1838. In January of the following year, the first practical forms of photography were introduced by Louis Daguerre and Henry Fox Talbot. Someone may possibly have conceived the idea early on of a combination of these elements into one mated stereoscopic photography. Into animated, I can't even read, stereoscopic photography, but it didn't become possible for decades to capture motion in real-time photographic recordings due to the light-sensitive emulsions that were used. Wheatstone got inventor Henry Fox Talbot, an Englishman, but born at the turn of the 19th century, to produce some calotype pairs for the stereoscope, and received the first results in October 1940. Calotype is an early photographic process using paper coated with silver iodide, a bright yellow solid inorganic compound with the formula AgI. Samples of this compound, almost always, contain impurities of metallic silver that give a grey coloration. The silver contamination arising because some samples of AgI can be highly photosensitive. After a few more experimental photographs were made, David Brewster, a Scottish scientist, inventor, author and academic administrator, introduced his stereoscope with lenses in 1849. Wheatstone, having had the idea of combining the stereoscope with the phantoscope, approached Joseph Plateau with this suggestion, and this resulted in an article being published regarding this concept by Plateau, also in 1849. Plato wrote about several improvements made to his phantascope and suggested a stop-motion technique involving a series of photographs of purpose-made plaster statuettes in different poses. This led to a chain of events leading to other early attempts to create motion pictures, also aiming to include the stereoscope effect. Early in 1860, Peter Hubert Desvines received British patent number 537 for 28 monocular and stereoscopic variations of cylindrical stroboscopic devices. This included a version that used an endless band of pictures which ran between two spools, intermittently led by an electric spark. Desvines' mimoscope got an honourable mention for ingenuity of construction at 1862 International Exhibition in London. It was capable of exhibiting drawings, models, single or stereotypic photographs, so as to animate animal movements, or that of machinery, showing various other illustrations. Desvines employed models, insects, and other objects instead of pictures, with perfect success. This was followed by the invention of a kinematoscope, a protean development in the history of cinema designed to present the illusion of motion in 1861 by American engineer Coleman Sellers II. In November 1877, there came a further development in motion technology when Thomas Edison, a US inventor and businessman who developed many devices in fields such as electric power generation, mass communication, sound recording and motion pictures, demonstrated his phonograph, later known as a gramophone, and in more recent years, a record player. An article in Scientific American concluded, it is already possible by ingenious optical contrivances to throw stereoscopic photographs of people on screens in full view of an audience. Add the talking phonograph to counterfeit their voices and it would be difficult to carry the illusion of real pretense much further. Earlier on in the summer of that very same year, the Daily Alta newspaper had announced a project by Edward Muybridge, an English photographer known for his pioneering work in photographic studies of motion and early work in motion picture production, and Leland Stanford, an American attorney, industrialist, philanthropist and Republican Party politician from California. The object of said project was to produce sequences of photographs of a running horse with 12 stereoscopic cameras. Muybridge had much previous experience with stereophotography, producing instantaneous pictures of Stanford's horse Occident running at full speed. The proposed sequences of running horses was eventually shot in June 1878 with stereoscopic cameras. The published result, and animated versions for his Zoom Praxiscope, an early device for displaying moving images, considered an important predecessor of a movie projector, were not stereoscopic, but in 1898, Muybridge claimed that he had privately reviewed the pictures in two synchronized zoetropes with Wheatstone's reflecting stereoscope as a very satisfactory reproduction of an apparently solid miniature horse trotting, and of another galloping. A patent for a 3D film process was finally filed in the late 1890s by British film pioneer William Freese, a prolific British inventor and professional photographer. In his patent, two films were projected side by side on screen, the viewer looking through a stereoscope to converge the two images. However, theatrical use was rendered impractical but by the obtrusive mechanics behind this method. By 1909, the German film market had suffered much from overproduction and too much competition. German film tycoon Oskar Messter had initially gained much financial success with the Tom Build the synchronized sound films of his Biophone system since 1903. But these films were losing money by the end of the decade, resulting in Messter halting production in 1913. Producers and exhibitors alike were looking into new film attractions, investing, for instance, in colourful imagery. The development of stereoscopic cinema seemed a logical step to lure visitors back into movie cinemas. It was in 1909 that the German civil engineer August Engelsmann painted in a process projecting film porn performances within a physical decor on the natural stage. Shortly afterwards, a German film tycoon obtained patents for another process with a great deal of similarities, probably with Engelsmann's agreement, and began to market it as Alabastra. Despite this particular process being well received by the press, Messter produced few titles, hardly promoting them. He abandoned Alabastra altogether eventually, believing the system to be uneconomical due to its need for special cinemas rather than the mainstream ones. A special cinema was opened in Vienna in 1911 using a process named Kinoplastica, aimed at middle-class audiences to fill the gap between lowbrow films and high-class theatre. Within 2 years, there were a whole chain of such cinemas, 250 of them in total, operating in France, Italy, UK, Russia and North America. Alabastra and Kinoplastica were often advertised as stereoscopic and screenless, although in reality the effect was heavily dependent on glass screen projection, and the films weren't stereoscopic. The shows seemed truly three-dimensional, the figures being clearly separate from the background, virtually appearing inside the real three-dimensional stage area without any visible screen. The earliest confirmed 3D film shown to an out-of-house audience was The Power of Love, premiering at the Ambassador Hotel Theatre in Los Angeles on September the 27th, 1922. A single projector could be used to display it, but anaglyph glasses were used for viewing. Today, more than a whole century later, here I am, sitting here boring you all to tears with my 3D specs on. I know I do waffle on a bit, but some things in life do require a little hard work.